glad that we have found it. There is true joy right here. Peace. There is true peace right here. There is true peace right here. And we are so glad that we have found it. There is true peace right here. Love. There is true love right here. There is true love right here. And we are so glad that we have found it. There is true love right here. Easy, huh? Okay, let's try again. So this time, we want to hear your voice. Okay? All right. Okay, if the children, if you would like to join us, if you know to sing, please come up here and support. Okay? There is true joy right here. There is true joy right here. And we are so glad that we have found it. There is true joy right here. There is true peace right here. There is true peace right here. And we are so glad that we have found it. There is true peace right here. There is true love right here. There is true love right here. And we are so glad that we have found it. There is true love right here. There is true love right here. Yeah, it's so nice. Okay, let's try the song Four Element Song. And this is new for you, but it's nice. Được cái này không? Okay. I sing first one time, then you just follow me with this easy, very easy song. Yeah. Awaken the spirit of the earth. This is too low. The wicked spirit of the earth, I feel you grow in me. The wicked spirit of the earth, I feel you grow in me. I am home, I am home. I am home. I am home. And then the second with the same. The wicked spirit of the wind, I feel you blowing me. The wicked spirit of the wind, I feel you blowing me. I am home. I am home. I am home. I am home. And then the rain, the wicked spirit of the rain, I feel you flowing me. Get it? Okay, now let's sing together. Okay. Awaken, spirit of the earth, I feel you grow in me. Awaken, spirit of the earth, I feel you grow in me. I am whole, everyone. I am whole. I am whole. I am whole. Awaken spirit of the wind, I feel you grow in me. Awaken spirit of the wind, I feel you blow in me. I am whole. I am whole. I am whole. I am whole. Awaken spirit of the wind, I feel you blow in me. Awaken spirit of the rain, I feel you blow in me. I am whole. I am whole. I am whole. I am whole. The sun and the sun, I feel you shine in me. Awaken spirit of the sun, I feel you shine in me. I am whole. I am whole. I am whole. I am whole. We are whole. We are whole. We are whole. We are whole. Oh, so nice. Okay. Okay, let's try simple thing. Suggestion what simple things. Okay. I get my joy from the simple things coming from the earth. I get my joy from the sun that shines and the water speaks to me. Listen to the wind and listen to the water. Hear what they say. Say what? Singing hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey. Singing hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey. I get my joy you so much. So now we invite our brother sister come up for the chanting before Dharma Talk. And we'll see you next year.
We would like to invite the monastic to come up to offer the chanting.
Xin mời đại chúng. Sáng hôm nay mình sẽ tụng bài Praising the Three Jewels and bác sĩ quay về. Trang số 9. The Sangha is invited to come back to our breathing so that our collective energy of mindfulness will bring us back together as an organism, going as a river with no more separation. Let the whole Sangha breathe as one body, chant as one body, listen as one body, and transcend the boundary of a delusive self, liberating from the superiority complex, inferiority complex, and the equality complex. The Buddha truth shines infinitely, enlighten the countless lifetimes. The beauty and stability of Buddha sitting is seen in mountains and rivers. How splendid is the vulture bee, how beautiful the light that shines forth from Buddha's crown, illuminating the six paths. To the Naga Buddha assembly, we will go to continue the true teachings and practices. We take refuge in the Buddha, ever present. The Dharma truth is infinitely lovely. The precious words of Buddha, like fragrant flowers floating down from the heavens. The wonderful Dharma is grand to see. It is recorded luminously in three transparent baskets, from generation to generation, handing down in 10 directions, so that today we can see our way. We vow to learn with our heart. We take refuge in the Dharma, ever present. The Sangha truth is infinitely precious, a fuse of merit and good seeds. The three rows and begging bowl are symbols of freedom. The mindfulness trainings, concentration and insight, support each other in mindfulness day and night. The Sangha does and is the foundation for us to realize the fruit of meditation. With one heart we come home and take refuge in the Sangha, ever present. Con về nương tựa Bụt, người đưa đường chỉ
Lối cho con trong cuộc đời. Nam mô Buddhaya. Con về nương tựa Pháp, con đường của tình thương và sự hiếu
Good morning, dear community. So lovely to see you all. I'd like to invite all the children to come up here so you can be in front and also at the same time see the screen. So everyone is welcome to join along. I thought we could start today by offering a song together. This is an oldie but goodie that was introduced to our community through Kairajul Lingo. It's a song originally by Nat Needle, and it was taken up in some Dharma circles. So, dear young friends, can you all see the board? And if you can't quite see it or not yet at the reading stage, it's okay. All you need to do is follow along with the rest of us, okay? So this song is called Sittin' Under the Bodhi Tree, and it's a song about dealing with unpleasant things, right? Okay, I'll start, and it's a call and response, but once you know the call, please join in on the call as well. There's old Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree. Bodhi tree. Okay, so that's how it starts. And that's how it continues. That's the whole song. There's old Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree. Bodhi tree. There's old Buddha, his mind as spacious as it could be. It could be sitting like a wise old frog, frog, sitting like a lump on a log, log, sitting with a smile on his face, kinda like empty space. Doesn't mind rain, doesn't mind thunder. What could bother old Buddha, I wonder? And here's where we call out something that normally bothers us in our day. Kids, anything usually bother you in your day? Yeah. An imperfect circle. Okay. Let's call that, because we don't have much space, let's call that a blob. Okay? What could bother old Buddha, I wonder? A blob. He wasn't bothered by a blob. He wasn't bothered by a blob. He let that blob just roll on by, just roll on by. Okay, so kids, think of something that you find unpleasant, okay? And when we get to that, raise your hand and we'll call on you. There's old Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree, Bodhi tree. There's old Buddha, his mind as spacious as it could be. It could be sitting like a wise old frog, sitting like a bump on a log, sitting with a smile on his face, kinda like empty space. Doesn't mind rain, doesn't mind thunder. What could bother old Buddha, I wonder? Anyone? What? A fire-breathing, a dragon. No? Taxes. Okay, I don't know if kids know anything about taxes, but I think we can all relate to that to some extent. Okay, we'll do taxes. He wasn't bothered by taxes. He wasn't bothered by taxes. He let those taxes just roll on by, just roll on by. Okay, one more concrete thing, okay? Flies. Okay, we'll do flies. There's old Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree, Bodhi tree. There's old Buddha, his mind as spacious as it could be, it could be. Sitting like a wise old frog, sitting like a bump on a log, sitting with a smile on his face, kinda like empty space. Doesn't mind rain, doesn't mind thunder. What could bother old Buddha, I wonder? Flies. He wasn't bothered by flies. He wasn't bothered by flies. He let those flies just roll on by, just roll on by. Thank you. Beautiful. So I wanted to ask you if you knew who the Buddha was. Anyone know who the Buddha was? Yes, who is the Buddha? Maybe if you know, you can come up here so we can share a mic so everyone can hear you. Can you come up? Yeah.
He used to be Prince Siddhartha and then he became Buddha.
Right. So he was a prince and he learned how to be very peaceful, very calm. And he learned how to face many, many difficulties with a deep understanding. Does anyone here have someone like that in your life? Someone who has a calm presence? Yeah? Your mom? Your mom? She's kind of like a Buddha for you. Anyone else? Who else has a calm, deep presence in your life that keeps you grounded? The monks, okay. So maybe, when we ordained, many of us ordained because we met someone like the Buddha when we first came into the practice, and that person happened to be our teacher. Many of us may not have met our teacher yet because you were too young. If you have a chance to come to the meditation hall, in the corner, on the far corner over there, there's an altar that's set up for our teacher. His name is Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh. And he is like the Buddha to us because he embodied all these very beautiful qualities of compassion, of calm, of peace. And so those are the type of things that he transmitted to us, that he taught us as his students. Yeah. So many of us may touch sometimes difficulties in our daily life among our siblings and our family. How many of us here have brothers and sisters, or sisters, yeah? And how many of you are here right now? How many of you are coming as a family? Oh, not as many as I thought. A lot of, okay. Maybe it's easier that way. Okay. So what we want to share with you today is that when we breathe and we pause, it's a chance for us to touch what we call our Buddha nature, which is our truest nature inside of us. Can I ask for your attention just for a little bit, everyone? Thank you. We just have a few precious minutes together and then you're going out to play, okay? So I just want to share with you that when we have a chance to stop and breathe and look inside, we have a chance to touch what we call is our Buddha nature, which is our truest, most peaceful, awake nature inside. And that's when we have a chance to touch the peace that we carry with us everywhere we go, even though maybe outside it might be very noisy, maybe outside mom, dad, brother, sister might be annoying us, but inside of us there's this what we call an oasis of peace called our Buddha nature. Okay? So every time when we listen to the bell, it's not so that we have to stop. It's because we want to stop and check in with what's going on inside of us, right? Like right now, we might feel a little anxious, and when we stop and take a breath, we have a chance to touch in, make sure that we're okay, and then continue. It's a way we take care of ourselves, okay? So our teacher is, as I said, the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, and his teachers, back 2,600 years was the Buddha, the historical Buddha. And so that's why when we come to the meditation hall and we always come in and we bow towards the altar, it's just to acknowledge our root teacher in us and around us, which is the Buddha, and also to acknowledge our teacher, the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, who continues to be in us today, even though he passed away a couple years ago. Okay? Yes, 2022. So thank you, kids, for joining us for the morning. We're going to ask you to now, with the next sound of the bell, we're going to stand up and face your parents, face the audience, and we offer a lotus joining our palms. So please stand up and face the audience, and we join our palms to acknowledge the Buddha nature, not just in us, but in our parents as well, and bow. And then we turn towards the altar, towards the Buddha altar, to acknowledge the awakened nature in all of us. And then enjoy your children program. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, before we begin, I'd like just to make sure everyone can hear me okay. It's okay? Okay. And also, I hear our teens are with us. If you're in the teen program, can you please raise your hand so I know where you're at? Okay, thank you. So, dear friends, let us begin with 3 sounds of the bell. Allow those wonderful seeds that were just watered from the freshness of our young ones to settle into our heart. We'll just come back to the breath for 3 full in-breaths, 3 full out-breaths, each sound of the bell. Dear respected Tay, dear noble community, welcome to the last day of the Blue Cliff Monastery Summer Retreat 2024, July 14th. It's been a very short retreat, it feels like. Just the other day, it seemed like we just came, people set up tents, and now everyone's already loading up their cars in advance. Today, to kind of cap off our retreat, I thought it would be nice to touch a little bit more deeply on the practices of equanimity, because equanimity is the kind of state of mind that we try to cultivate in order to bring ease, to bring acceptance, harmony into our life, to allow spaces for joy to pop up, to allow for us to touch suffering in a different way so that understanding and love and compassion can pop up. So without equanimity, we cannot really have the spaciousness in our heart and even in our body to develop these other qualities of love, compassion, joy. With the younger ones, when we ask them the question, what usually makes you feel unpleasant, we just left it at that. But now that they're gone, I'd like to let you in on a little secret, that equanimity, the kind that the Buddha embodied, it is an equanimity that covers both the pleasant and unpleasant, right? So we don't just practice with things that are unpleasant to be equanimous. We also actually necessarily need to practice with those things that we usually find are pleasant. Right? So in our daily life, there are things that we like to do. There are things that we put our energy and our attention to, and we ignore those other things because maybe in comparison they may be a bit boring, right? They may not be speaking to our heart. Those are the things that we call pleasant. And in Buddhist psychology, we know there's pleasant things, unpleasant things, and neutral things. So most of the time, we're running after those things that are pleasant, like talking to our friends, being someplace we want to be, and ignoring or forgetting about or actively avoiding things that we don't want to do. Our homework, our responsibilities that are not so interesting to us, our chores. And most of the time, we're in this space of running away from those things and running towards. And when we are in that space, we don't have the spaciousness inside to really see deeply into our situation, and we're caught. So I know most of us here, we value our freedom a lot, right? No one wants to be told what to do. And I know I've had this conversation before with my parents, and I remember this was often a topic in our household about freedom of choice. Like, how do we make decisions in the family so that as a child, whether we're younger or older, we have a say in the way our life is in the home, right? And at the same time, mom and dad, they really want us to be attentive, to listen to the words of wisdom and experience that they've had over many years. They want us to avoid those pitfalls that they may have fallen into. And some of those pitfalls involve those pleasant things that we like a lot. So, question for you. How many of us here, adult or other, know of someone who is a little bit addicted to something? It could be food, it could be electronics, basically everyone, right? Okay, I'd like to hear from a teen. Can you give me an example of what it is that you've seen people are addicted to? Vapes, okay, electronics, vapes, drugs, okay, drugs. That's the most concrete thing we can talk about, right, when we talk about addiction. Thank you. Another teen, what other things do you see yours in your surrounding people are addicted to? Yes. Tons of social media, not just a little bit, but a lot. Great. One other teen. We couldn't have covered it all, right? It's not just vapes and social media. There's so many things that people get caught in. Teens? Yes. Some foods, and a very astute observation that even if it's kind of healthy, depending on how we relate to it, it becomes a kind of a crutch, right? So why are we talking about this? It's because we want to give our group here some tools to reflect on ourselves, to see where we might be free and where we might be caught. So equanimity is this space, this state of mind where we are in a calm and balanced state, where we can reflect on the positive things in our environment. We can also reflect on the negative things in our environment with a clarity, without being pulled by our reaction of running away or running towards right away. And that's where the beginning of freedom comes. And I think on our parents' side, that's probably where they would also say that's where the beginning of responsibility also comes. The more freedom we have to see, then we have choices to make, and we can make responsible choices or not, depending on how deeply we see into a situation. Okay. So equanimity, or as our teacher has wisely redefined it, inclusiveness. It is that state of mind that allows us to receive things, whether they're positive or negative, without pushing or pulling away. Why? So that we can be present for it, to look at it more deeply, what we call is looking deeply into it, to see what is our relation with it. Our friendships, the kind of circles that we hang around, that we are a part of, are they a kind of crutch for us? Or are they really nourishing us? Are they really supporting us? Are they friends who help us out, especially in difficult moments? Or are they only friends when it's easy and it's a cool thing to do? Are they there when you are down on your luck? If we don't have a development of equanimity, the second we see something that is convenient or pleasant, like hanging around with certain groups of people, for example, then we get pulled into that without really having the chance to reflect, is this actually good for me or not? So it is kind of like an addiction when you think about it. And equanimity is the opposite direction. It is the antidote to being reactionary. So our young ones, your siblings that have just left, they really only touched the beginning part, which is what is unpleasant, and can they be like the Buddha? Can they sit like a frog on a log and just let it roll on by? But we're going a little bit more deeper as older folks. We know that it's not just the pleasant things. You didn't see that. It's not just the unpleasant things, but it's also the pleasant things that we have a mindfulness practice around. And so I was so happy to see a number of our teens taking the 5 mindfulness trainings today, because very clearly in the 5th mindfulness training, it talks about consumption. It's like a lot of small bells asking us, are we sure that what it is that we are doing right now with our time, our energy, with our eyeballs, with our ears, are we sure that this is mindful, or is it covering something up? Is it pulling us away from a place of equanimity, or is it helping us to calm, to be more clear? I'd like to share an experience I had when I was younger, I regret to this day. When I was little, I was really into Casper the Friendly Ghost. I used to dress up as Casper the Friendly Ghost for Halloween. And then my new idol was Spider-Man. I really, really liked Spider-Man. I really liked the qualities of his being a regular everyday Joe, being unassuming but a superhero underneath. And the fact that anyone could be Spider-Man. This was back, let's see, I was born in 73. So this is before Spider-Man became cool, right? So my brother, who's older than me by 3.5 years, he happened to know that I really like Spider-Man. And for my birthday, I think I was maybe 7 or 8, he actually got me a Spider-Man action figure. And it was a birthday, just like a regular birthday, but I'll never forget how I couldn't face that in front of my friends, because I was a closet Spider-Man lover. And so when I opened up the present and I remember my brother's face, he was so happy. He was ready for me to be surprised. I opened it up and I was happy inside, but at the same time, because of my friends around me, I remember my smile quickly turned into a grimace, and I pretended like I didn't like it. And my brother was so hurt. And his hurt, I remember to this day. So I share this because I remember just how easy it was to turn on him. He's my own brother, and yet because of the pressure outside, peer pressure, I turned on him to protect myself. So I know it's very easy to do that, and it's very hard to stay true to what's inside of you sometimes. So I had an inner Spider-Man that I betrayed. I also have a brother that I betrayed. And years later, I held on to that for the longest time, and I was able to begin anew with him just a few years back. Of course, he didn't really remember this, but it left a scar in my heart because I felt that I betrayed him. And the reason I betrayed him was because I wasn't in tune with myself. I didn't have the conditions like many of our teens have right now of touching practices that allow us, give us permission to listen to what's going on inside and to be true to yourself. If I had been in a kind of environment like this early on, maybe I would have smiled right away and high-fived my brother. And if my friends jeered at me for liking Spider-Man instead of Barbie, I would have jutted out my chin and said, "That's right, I like Spider-Man. What's wrong with that?" Right? But I didn't have the conditions to be strong and true to myself. So this is what I want to share with you. Mindfulness practice is a way of tuning in to what's important inside of you, rather than tuning out to, and I don't mean tuning out as in zoning out, but I mean putting your antenna out to what the media is saying, what the news is saying, what your friends are saying, what your enemies are saying, what the fads are saying, and running and defining yourself by those things. That's what I mean by tuning out. Why are we here? We're here to learn how to tune in, to be true to what's going on. And yes, we have imperfections. So when we tune in and we see things that are not so pretty, at the same time we're learning how to acknowledge that instead of pushing it aside. We're accepting that there are aspects of ourselves that can be improved. And I think parents are often telling us there's things that we can improve, right? So when we engage in the practice of mindfulness, of stopping, pausing, listening to ourselves, we're helping to take care of those things that society outside isn't taking care of for us. Right? So tuning in, what does that mean? It's very simple, what you've been practicing throughout this time. It's to pause, whatever you're doing, whatever mindfulness bell you choose. Maybe it's a friend who keeps on saying something rude to you. Maybe that can be your bell of mindfulness. It's simply to pause instead of reacting right away, laughing along like you enjoy something that you really don't enjoy. Pause, take a physical breath, gives a concrete pause to your body, and then check in. Check in, look inward. What is your body feeling when you hear those rude words? Do you feel a tightening in your stomach? Do you feel a constriction in your throat? That's your truth. And we honor that in you. We don't want you to push that aside and ignore it. We want you to take care of things as they come up so they don't build up. Like yesterday, a friend in the group asked a very, very practical question from the teens. It was about how to practice with procrastination, if I remember correctly. Is that right? Yeah. And procrastination is one of those things where you let things build up because it's too hard to look at. The project, the paper, whatever it is, it's too big, it's too challenging, and you don't want to deal with it. So what do? You do what I used to do with my laundry when I was little, which is I'd hide it in the crack of my bed, and I'd stuff it down and I'd stuff it down until my mom found it and I got in trouble. So you see, the more you stuff it down, the less it's taken care of. And it's the same thing with our emotions, our reactions, our truths. The less we take care of it, the more they accumulate until they become an illness. It becomes a depression. It becomes a sickness in the body. We don't want that to happen to you as our future. You are our future. Okay? So that's why we pause, stop, and we check in to name what's going on in our body. We make that space to name it, and that way we remove our attention from that constant feedback that's coming in from not so friendly friends, right? Not so friendly media. And when we know what's going on in our body, then we befriend it. You often see calligraphies here that says, breathe and smile. That smile is a very powerful tool of befriending ourselves. You don't smile to an enemy, right? You smile when you want to make friends, when you want to be present for and with something. So this is a practice to let us affirm in ourselves that there are unpleasant things going on in my environment, but it's okay. I'm with that, I'm smiling to it, and I'm gonna take care of it. So that's the energy of the practice of mindfulness. It involves our heart. So let us not think of equanimity as something that is very distant from us, as something that's indifferent, as apathy. It very much means our heart is present, is inclusive of all of us, all of our mental formations, all of our positive seeds and our negative seeds. And we're doing a practice of self-care, of self-acceptance. Pause, breathe, check in with the body, and then befriend it. So coming back to my SpiderMan issue, if I had known this practice as that was coming up, maybe I wasn't aware that I was being mean to my brother, but I was certainly aware of his facial expression of hurt when he saw me turning on him. And that could have been my mindfulness bell to pause, to not pretend and push away, but just to pause and take a breath, to name it, my brother's hurt. I was just being fake. I'm feeling very uncomfortable where in my body. And then to smile. That way I would have not continued doing that harm, because that lasted throughout the birthday party, and my brother, basically, it was a rift in trust. I don't know if any of you have ever had this situation with others, but once you betray others because of your ego, that's a rift in trust. And that happens all the time between loved ones across in workspaces. Maybe it's a little bit more open in workspaces because it's competitive. It also happens between friends. But these are rifts that cause injury, and when we don't take care of them, they become scars. I'm 50-something, 50, and I still remember. It's still a scar in my heart. Okay. So, if we don't take care of our truths inside, however they manifest, we will transmit them to the next generations. And that is a common saying, what we do not transform, we will transmit. And this isn't just from parents to children, this is from, family member to family member. This is from older teen to younger sibling too. If you have a reaction that doesn't get to the heart to resolve something, you slam the door, you shut the conversation down, you ignore mom and dad when they're trying their best to communicate with you, guess what? Your younger sibling is looking at you and they're learning this, and they're going to apply it not just to mom and dad, but they probably might be applying it to you as well. So this is an ongoing transmission that happens. What we don't transform, we will transmit. Now, a family retreat is, we have families come, but this is also a time for the adults to give space to reflect on their relationship, your relationship with your parents, because what we have not had transformed has been transmitted to us. And chances are we still have a child-parent relationship with them that has some anchors from our childhood. Right? We still may carry some hurts from the past, even though our parents are now much older. But we still relate to them as we were younger. A couple days ago, we had a guided meditation on the 5-year-old. It was to help us to have a chance to look more deeply at how we relate to mom and dad. Do we see them holistically, or do we see them through the lens of that hurt, that injury, to the point that we have not yet had the chance to unpack all the other positive experiences that we may have had, to the point that we may not have touched gratitude for all the other things that our parents may have offered us. So now I'd like to invite us to take a pause here and reflect on those things, maybe one main thing that we touch that has not been transformed in our family, from your parents down to you. Whether you're a teen or you're a parent now, reflecting on your parents, what is one thing that has not been transformed and has been transmitted to you that you find challenging? And at the same time, one thing that you do see has been positively transmitted to you, whether intentional or not. So one challenging one and one positive thing. We'll have 6 minutes. I'd like to ask you to break into groups of 3, and each person will have about 2 minutes to share. At minute 5, we'll just do a wake up so that everyone knows we have 1 more minute. Okay? So please break into groups of a triad, groups of 3. And you can begin once you have your group. Please transition to the next person if you haven't already done so. Thank you. Please transition to the next person if you haven't already done so. Thank you. You can wrap up. The last person who's sharing can wrap up, and then please come back to your seat. Okay, dear friends, please come back to the larger group. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. Maybe before we continue, I'd just like to invite everyone to stand up, and we'll do a little bit of a stretch. Wonderful, thank you. I'd like to invite you back to your seat. I might add that for some of us, we are very private. And I know in Asian culture, it is actually a very intimate relationship of speaking of our elders, our parents, in ways that seem critical. It's difficult to do. So I might add that when we do the practice of looking deeply into our situation as a family member, in the light of equanimity, remember the heart is involved. It is not a betrayal to acknowledge the challenges in our family, because we do that with the intention of healing, of transforming, not just for ourselves, but for our parents and for our children after us. So I know sometimes it may feel difficult to speak out, maybe not in a public space, but even for ourselves to acknowledge that there are shortcomings in ourselves, shortcomings in one another. But please know that this is in the space of love that we do it. So what we do not transform, we will transmit. Would anyone like to share a dyad of what it is that they feel is challenging for them, and at the same time what it is that they've received in a beautiful way from one or both of your parents? And chances are others may resonate with your sharing. Yes. Can I invite you to Mike? Thank you.
I think the thing that I have found most, that I'm most grateful for, that I have been transmitted to from my mom, is a love and passion for caring for animals. And I think a negative thing that we can probably both agree on is kind of a stubbornness to never admit when we're wrong. And I think we butt heads about this, and I think it comes off when my sister and I argue that I now have an unwillingness to ever admit if I'm wrong, and I think we can both agree on that.
Thank you. Can we offer her flowers? That was a very brave sharing. Thank you. And can anyone relate to what she shared? Yeah. Thank you. That was very kind of you to share for everyone. So as I said, what we do not transform, we transmit. It's out of our hands. But this is for our awareness, because once we know that, it gives us motivation to put our energy into the practice, right? Not just for ourselves, but for our loved ones as well. But the good news is, what we do transform, we also transmit. Okay? It doesn't rest with ourselves alone. So our young ones, the young ones who are just toddlers now, and our teens who are here, you have a huge head start on your folks, because you are able to start to recognize and put your hands into these habits that are still forming in you, that are not yet strong. There may be some weeds, but they're not deep-seated weeds. So you have a huge head start because you're starting much earlier and you're able to apply the practices to see things more clearly and not get caught up by habit energies, or negative habit energies. So what we're trying to say here is that whether we transform or not, we are transmitting in every moment that we live together as a family, no matter what. So that gives us impetus. If we're transmitting, we want to transmit the right things. And the further good news is, if we are in the process of dealing with a lot of stuff, a lot of things, a lot of negative things that we inherited because our ancestors did not have the conditions to take care, to transform them for us, it's okay. Because not only do we transmit what we don't transform or what we transform, but we also transmit the practice. And this is the most important part. This is equally as important. And in our Dharma sharing group the other day, I think we touched on this. How we practice to transform is also what we are transmitting right now. As a community, that's what we are supporting one another to do, to come back to the baseline of practice, no matter how good we are, no matter how unskillful we are, no matter how broken we feel. What we are doing in the present moment is picking up the tools of mindfulness so that we can do the healing and move in the right direction. And that is what our younger ones will pick up from our presence, our practice here in this retreat and onward. No matter how successful we are, as someone when I look to my parents and I see they may not be successful in this or that endeavor, but I see they're trying. I see their effort. I see that they care enough to try and to get up and try again. That is already an inspiration for me. And I'm sure our parents are like that too. When you see your children learning something new and adjusting, making some changes in the way they speak at home, in the way they take up responsibilities at home, in the way they listen more deeply at home, that's also something that inspires you, because that is our common ground, the ground of practice. And that is why in our tradition, our teacher has always emphasized that once we have a path of practice, we have nothing to fear, because we can always take refuge in that common ground as a family, as a sangha. The 5 mindfulness trainings is our backbone that we come back to take refuge in when we have lack of clarity, we have made mistakes, we have made egregious mistakes. But our common ground is we have a commitment to heal, to be nourished by the practice. So how we practice to transform. Back in I think it was the 70s, in the American War, during the American War in Vietnam, there was this horrendous quote. I'm not sure if any of you remember this quote. We had to destroy the village in order to save it. Basically, it was in response to the brutality of the horrendous bombing, basically the destruction of a whole village. And the justification of that was that is the way, that was the only way that they could do it in order to win the war, to win the larger war. So this is a nuance, but I wanted to bring out this example as an extreme so that we could look at it again in light of the way we live as a family or as a community. There's this thing called hard love and tender love, right? And sometimes hard love can be a bit too hard for our young ones. If we're not careful as parents, it can start to go in the direction of this. We're goal-oriented. We want our children to be a certain way. We want them to model good behavior, to have good outcomes in their social skills, in their academics, etc. And so we emphasize this out of care for them, out of love, not knowing that if we don't find a balance between what we are seeking to transform in them and what we are training them to practice, to learn how to do for themselves, we are actually doing damage to their spirit. So no one wants to be told what to do. Right? But everyone wants to have the agency, the capacity to do for themselves what brings them happiness, and of course what brings their loved ones happiness. So how do we do it in such a way that we do not destroy the village in order to win the war? It comes back to this balance between how we practice and what we are seeking to transform. Right? And as long as we have that in mind, we can strike that balance, that equanimity. We can receive mistakes, see it in the light of an ongoing practice, to fold in, to learn from, and to move forward. And our young ones will then feel the spaciousness to explore, to make mistakes, and be okay to step up again rather than to self-judge and to shy away. I was a huge procrastinator in school, and to this day when I have stress in my life and it comes up in my dreams, my nightmare is that I'm about to take a test the next day, and the whole semester I haven't studied. And that's actually the case. That's a lived experience. I have lived through that trauma. So this procrastination, again, coming back to this this habit that we may have a little bit or a lot in our lives, looking at what is the goal and what is the practice. When we engage in something that's so goal-oriented and we want it to be perfect, we are already losing sight of the practice, of touching what's real for us. I don't know about this subject. I need to do more research about this subject. I need to ask for help about this subject. I need to break this thing down. These are all things that aren't given space when we approach it from a place of outcome. You have to have the perfect paper. You have to have the perfect grade. You have to be the perfect child, right? So finding a balance as a parent is a welcome challenge, because we know when we find that balance, we are open to our child's shortcomings and we see that as part and parcel of growing up, then we know that we're giving them space to really learn to take the tools and own those tools, have that sense of agency, and really touch the integrity of their freedom. And as much as teens might feel that your parents sometimes don't want you that freedom, you better believe that they really do. It's a lot more work to police you than to let you do whatever you want. But because of care, we have habits of caring in a way that might be a little less equanimous. So these are conversations that we can have in the family in the light of beginning a new practice. Flower, water, the things that we appreciate about one another. But by the way, these are some areas that I'm finding a little bit challenging when we have these kind of conversations and you keep reminding me in this way about this and that and the other thing. These are the type of real conversations we can have to help give a spaciousness, equanimity in the family. So with that, we want to erase this kind of mentality in our spheres of practice and come back to this beautiful mantra that I thought was so wise of our teacher to add. And we had some basic mantras, but this one I think was the very last one that was added. You are partly right. Just saying that already gives me ease when I say it, because it's an acknowledgement of our common ground. It also means you're partly wrong, but that's not the point that we're emphasizing, right? It means I'm partly right, you're partly right, and there's space for us to reflect on together to deepen. So the conflict doesn't end in a stalemate, like our friend was sharing, butting heads. It doesn't need to end in that way. It can end in a way that is an invitation to explore further. In that present moment, I was caught in this. And because of that, this is how I reacted. And I can understand why you reacted so in that way. Moving forward. So for our parents, if you try this mantra, or if you've already tried that mantra, you might see just how much more space there is to have a deepening conversation, to understand those hidden reasons why our young ones may have reacted or said something that we may not have seen right at the moment of interaction, right? And it's a very beautiful gift to give one another when we have the humility to say, I was partly wrong, you were partly right. So as a point of practice, do these words come easily to us because of our family traditions? Just a point to reflect on. When we think of ourselves as a parent, or when we think of our parents, do we think, oh gosh, that would never come out of mom's mouth, or that would never come out of dad's mouth? That's the very beginning of our practice of mindfulness. This is a challenge to say these words. And why is that? And why might, or how might these words be expressed maybe in a different way, in a language that is more familiar to mom, dad, or to the young ones? So we come back to the spirit of equanimity, allowing for different viewpoints in the family to be expressed, allowing for mistakes to be present, for imperfections to be present, allowing us to have space to recognize the positive as well as the negative with a heart without blame. So we come to the conclusion, whatever we are doing, there is only continuation from generation to generation. And therefore, since there's only continuation, let us make it as easeful of a continuation as possible. Our practice should be easeful. That's why we want our young ones to touch the practice in a way that's not hardcore. Something that you and your loved ones can pick up anywhere in the heat of the moment, or when you're outside, or when you're by yourself. Just to be able to touch that oasis we were talking at the very beginning, that oasis of peace, of clarity, of understanding that is already present in each one of us when we cultivate the conditions around us. Right? So easeful, we come back to equanimity so that it opens up ease, it opens up avenues for transformation, which then gives us more joy, more love. So thank you for listening, and wishing you an easeful and joyful continuation.